I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I am no regular citizen. Nope. Do you understand what you're witnessing? You cannot tell what the difference is. I want it all and I'm winning it. Yeah. I do not care about opinions. Time to make a few decisions. Do it. So I can take a position. I'ma go get it, I'm punching and kicking. Yeah. I keep on moving, they offer me. Just do it and stop at our talking G. I'm not expressing no modesty. I can't see nobody stopping me. If there's a problem, I gotta solve it. Straight to the top, I can't see myself falling. I gotta grab it, there's no time for stalling. Number one son, don't have other options. Now I'm fired up. I'm sorry, brother, your time's up. I see the top and I climb up. I came from the ashes, I rise up. Rise up, rise up. I want it now, I gotta rise up. Rise up. I want it now, I gotta rise up. Rise up. I want it now, I gotta rise up. Rise up. I want it now, I want it now, and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now, and I ain't never gon' back down. I gotta go for the gold. I need to switch up the mode. I'm gonna win on my own. I'm in a whole nother zone. I reached the pinnacle. I don't have time, this is critical. It's time to finish you. I don't care who I just did it to. I gotta go for the gold. I need to switch up the mode. I'm gonna win on my own. I'm in a whole nother zone. I reached the pinnacle. I don't have time, this is critical. It's time to finish you. I don't care who I just did it to. I want it now, I gotta rise up, rise up. I want it now, I gotta rise up, rise up. I want it now, I gotta rise up, rise up. I want it now, I gotta rise up, rise up. I want it now, I gotta rise up, rise up. I want it now, I gotta rise up, rise up. I want it now, I gotta rise up, rise up. I want it now, I gotta. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. Said I'm fired up. I'm sorry your time's up. I see the top and I climb up. Came from the ashes, I rise up. Rise up, rise up. I want it now, I gotta rise up.
From the high banks of Talladega, we're ready to go racing at one of NASCAR's most famous short tracks. Will the tempers come out to fly tonight, and will we see our fourth different race winner of the campaign? Well, only time is going to tell. Welcome to RaceSpotTV's coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, live from iRacing's virtual Dover Motor Speedway. We're happy that all of you are joining us here on a beautiful Monday night as we continue the 2024 campaign for the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Evan Basoko still out this week, heading back home from a work weekend in Zurich, Switzerland. So I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Joining me alongside in the booth tonight is Justin Prince. And Justin, from last week in Talladega, Bradley Burke got the win. We transitioned to a track that is very, very different, albeit is going to be another exciting race. It seems like Dover just is in its own category, even when it comes to short tracks. It's a mile long, but it's fast and it's high banked.
Yeah, we're just talking about this action with some of the drivers before tonight's action. A lot of speed having to be carried around with the next-gen car here at Monster Mile action, but it's all the same in terms of the flow. You have to get the arc right. You have to get the lift point right. You have to get the brake point right. You got to get the double diamond down, and if you don't get the double diamond down, that safer barrier is going to welcome you into the wall in pretty quick. You have to get this track dialed in and dialed in fast, or else you're going to get either ran over or Miles the Monster is going to run you over.
This track weirdly reminds me a little bit of Indianapolis. You really got to treat turn 1, 2, 3, and 4 all completely different, like you were just saying. And we're entering that middle portion of the calendar, 7 rounds down, and only 3 winners still on the winning tally for the season and are locked into the playoffs. Anything can happen when we go racing tonight here in Dover. And we have a week off next week before we're back at Darlington and the Lady in Black. Then All-Star Night when we go racing on May the 13th. Then that middle portion of the calendar for the summer really gets in. We go to Darlington one more time before we cut off for the playoffs, and then the championship will be crowned across 30 rounds. And those championship points are still got a long way to go, JP, but Agnell Phillip 3 wins, Bradley Burke 2, Minazzi Major 1. There's still a lot more wins to go, and a battle a little bit at the cut line, 9 points separating Austin Coop and Braden Whitaker, who's slightly on the outside.
Curious to see who moves up from that cut line as the season progresses, but it's not a surprise, I think, when you talk about the most wins being Bill Phillip, because he's one of the top drivers once again in the eNASCAR qualified iRacing Series ladder in RTP this year. He's been for the past couple of years. And while he's been busy in terms of the real world, in terms of the journalism side, he's kind of built himself a strong craft when it comes to sim racing. The big surprise, Andrew Freenosh not yet into victory lane yet. That's kind of wild for RSR. Let's put it that way.
Last couple of seasons, it has been all Agnell Phillip, with Andrew Freenosh not able to do much and stopping him from being at the top of the leaderboard. We look at Agnell Phillip now in the 94, and I do got to correct, it is not 3 wins, it is 4 wins on the season. The only driver, the most winningest driver so far this season in RSR competition. Still more drivers looking to get onto that playoff grid. But as Agnell Phillip gets started for a lap around the Dover Motor Speedway here in qualifying, it is Andrew Freenosh who sits top of the board. Ross Cato in second. Last week's winner at Talladega, Bradley Burke, in third. What does Agnell Phillip have for the speed chart? 23.242. It's not going to be enough. It's going to be P18. What does he got for lap number 2 to get himself inside the top 10?
Remember, usually the first laps these days in the next-gen car is get the tires heated up just to the optimal window, even if it's a little bit slower to start things up, because if you nail that run out of 4 like this, you're up on the pylon, but not enough to even be in the top 5, a top 7 for Phillip.
That is very uncharacteristic of the number 94 A51 Pro Altus Chevy Camaro. With over a minute left in qualifying, nobody else going to be out on track actively, or as I say that, in-race reporter Dylan Coyle's taking a lap here, looking to improve on his P17, and we've got Dylan in the booth with us right now. Dylan, you're taking a couple of extra, it looks like, practice laps out there. You've gotten your 2 times in.
Yeah, I got my 2 times in. What's going on, everybody? Not sure if you can see me. Apologies for the mess in behind me. It's a saucer chair, Mr. Lee. I know you had a problem with that earlier. But yeah, you know, just trying to get some remaining practice laps in. Dover is very much a rhythmic track. You kind of have to ride the roller coaster the entire way. You can get on rails pretty easily here, and it's very easy to lose concentration, get yourself into the outside wall fairly quickly. So hopefully it's a clean race for me, and hopefully I can try and navigate some of the mess that might happen at the back of the field pretty quickly.
Well, I gotta say, I gotta clear my name. I don't have a problem with saucer chairs. I have a problem that it's right in the middle of your room. That's the only, it's the placement.
I legitimately
issue.
just removed right before the broadcast my futon, and I want to put it back. So
I agree. I agree with that move. So
okay.
I feel like after the broadcast, you should take care of that. But Dylan, get on the grid. We got to go racing here from the Dover Motor Speedway. So let's take a look at where everybody's going to line up here from the virtual Dover Motor Speedway on the pole. Back to form for Andrew Freenosh. The New Englander will start to the inside of row 1. Ross Cato will start to the outside P12, or in the number 12 P2. Bradley Burke, Brandon Gass going to share row number 2. And Justin Prince, Cody Harris, Sam Nieto going to round out the top 3 rows.
7th spot tonight going the way of Agnell Phillip. As you mentioned, uncharacteristic with his performances, but he looks to charge ahead alongside Jared Weinmaster. Row number 5, Grant Davis for Flat Out alongside the F-150 racing team machine of Maverick Davis. Top 12 closes out with Austin Coop on the bumper so far for the top 16 in points. The Rogue Wave Racing Machine alongside Michael Liera in flat out in 12.
Thomas George, Chris Treppa going to share row 7 with Braden Whitaker, Brett Larson sharing row 8. Dylan Coyle and Manatsi Major, some of the last drivers to take a time in qualifying. And very quickly on that last page, DeAndre Kane and Matt Danson were those last 2 drivers to take a time in qualifying. Eric Papanow, Jason Landry, and Steve Soa going to round out the full 23 car field as we get rolling off here from the virtual Dover Motor Speedway. Only one pace lap, a quick pace lap as we get ready to go racing here. Justin, your keys to winning here at a very, very tricky short track in Dover.
First key, manage the tires, because if you go way too quick, you overload the right front tire, burn up the right front tire, smack the wall. That's going to be a massive problem for some drivers today. Second, make sure to keep an eye on the pack. If you go too early on passes, if you try and push the tempo too fast, you lose a lot of time. But third, pit stops. Be careful on entry. This is a dangerous entry with this car. A lot of people could spin it.
Getting ready to go racing here from the virtual Dover Motor Speedway. Who is going to be able to tame Miles the Monster as the iRacing official pace car pulls into the safety of the pit lane? Green flag is shown to the 88 Andrew Farinage, and we are underway from virtual Dover. Good start out in front for Farinage, but it's an aggressive start for Agnell Phillip. He's already looking to the bottom. 3 wide at Cody Harris and Ross Cato. Move Phillip from 7th to 3rd now here on lap number 2. He's making quick work of the field.
Yeah, he's pretty much made it clear he doesn't like the track position he didn't have. He have to start the race and say, you know what? Now I'm going to calm down. I'm top 3. Maybe I can breathe. For others here, like the Edelman Company, got to find a place to breathe. There's already been some chatter on spacing, but the thing is, Dover's the type of track you lose the bottom, you lose a lot of time.
Up front, still Andrew Farinage, who is commanding this race lead. He's got Bradley Burke behind, who has had a monumental season so far in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series. 2 wins. Burke walks away with a win in Las Vegas and walks away with a win last week at Talladega. This has been the start that I think Bradley Burke deserved, the one that he wanted. Now trying to fight with Andrew Farinage, who is always very quick no matter what car he gets in, but we're under the yellow flag. Eric Papanow's up and into the outside wall in 3 and 4.
And this is what I talked about in terms of being able to pace yourself. Curious on the look of the replay, but I'm pretty sure that might have been on the 90. He was battling with them. Yep. Watch the 90. Misses the bottom outright.
Light tap, but as well with this banking and with that missed apron there, not a lot that Eric Papanow really could do there. I want to take a look on board with DeAndre Kane, because that was just a complete misjudgment of that corner. Wondering if he was coming in a little bit too hot, JP. Let's take a look from the in-car cam.
Massively too deep. In fact, we're actually talking about this with our in-race reporter. His biggest mistake in practice was exactly that, going out the bridge. And here's the thing, that's fine and all if you were going to go back to Gen 6 with the high downforce. With this car and package, with it being low downforce, you have to back that up almost to the light post, to the right alongside the casino. If you don't time that up, you're in massive trouble. No surprise, DeAndre Kane taking responsibility for the caution flag.
He does take responsibility for that. That'll be an end of the longest line penalty for DeAndre Kane, and will avoid that incident from going to post-race review as well. The 90, DeAndre Kane having some issues as well under the yellow flag as he tries to get back up and into the pack. You will get that end of the longest line penalty from Race Control tonight. Joshua Mendoza with us here for the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, but First caution out of the way very, very early, Justin. Not a whole lot to talk about with strategy just yet. But it's got to be in the back of all these drivers' minds because, of course, they can't make it 200 laps on a single tank of fuel. And I think they're not going to make it as long as one tank of fuel with the tire wear as well. So what are all these drivers thinking in terms of strategy to hit pit road at the opportune times? Because, yes, we got an early caution here on lap 6, but no guarantee of any more yellow flags.
That's a good point because, in theory, if you're thinking about tires, normally about 75 laps at the very max is what I've noticed is the tire wear before drivers start having tire blowouts with some of these cars, especially if you push hard. But realistically speaking, it's more so, I would argue, 90 to 95 if you more so go fuel, maybe with the save here for the caution. But in other words, what I'm saying is, if it goes green, about 66 laps. If it doesn't go green, wait until the next caution and then sort it out from there. I think if we get a long run, I think we might see a lot of people gambling that there's going to be someone who won't make it to a caution flag or to the pit lane without spinning.
Even with those issues for Eric Papanow, that moves him into the pit lane, still down there to get some damage repaired. So that leaves us with 22 drivers in this lead pack. Everybody else still on the lead lap as well, as the official iRacing pace car will move its way back into the safety of pit lane, and Andrew Freenars will revisit the Geico restart zone to head back under the green flag here in Dover Motor Speedway. Green flag back in the air. We go on to lap number 8, and Freenars gets a great jump side by side for P2 as Agnell Phillip and Bradley Burke hit the concrete in turn 1.
And Phil's pretty much showed he is really good for the jump on the short run. Don't be surprised if there's a poke quickly. We know Freenars in the past before the next-gen car. And I remember when the next-gen car came out back around 2022, when the last time I was in the broadcast booth with RSR, he said he did not like this car. Well, he is one of the drivers in the top 70 in RTP this season with Elliott Sauer Esports. He kind of needs to learn the car this year.
I'll tell you what, JP, that opinion has not changed a whole lot on Andrew Freenars, and him, Agnell Phillip, and more all use this series as a training ground for Road to Pro for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, and we take a look on board with Agnell Phillip as he tries to chase down Freenars in front. Not able to get around him, but we know Agnell Phillip and Andrew Freenars, they might be rivals, and you might be able to pit them against each other in the amount of championship battles they've had, but they know how to race around each other. They know how to race each other clean. Not expecting any wild moves from Phillip as we see one driver get into the wall in turn 4.
Looks like to be okay for the time being, the backdrop, but in regards to what you'll see here throughout this race too is clean air has been pretty substantial regardless of the track with the next-gen car, especially in the past year. But for a lot of the top drivers, you need to be careful. You need to be also making sure you don't overclock the wheel. For example, let's take Texas as an opportunity to compare. That track, depending on your setup and depending on how your comfortability with the fixed side, you couldn't rotate unless you got the right steering setup in for your set fixed setup or for any sort of grid. For a track like Dover, you overclock the wheel by even 5 degrees. It could be the difference between cooking the right front and having high speed and just enough wear to be able to make sure you don't slam the wall down.
Chris Treppa just got moved off of the racing line in turn 1. Gonna try and grab a replay of that, but he was in the background of that last shot, and as the field went into turn number 1, he was having a diving move to the inside of one car. I think he moved to the inside after almost hitting the wall on Thomas George. Replay coming up in just a moment. That was a very, very close to being a potential problem that we did not end up having, but replay is up. Justin, I'm not exactly sure what happened here, but it was a very weird under green, just problems.
This is not scheduled. In fact, that pass attempt was not scheduled. I noticed he was driving higher and higher up the track. I mentioned the amount of rotation and sending it deep. What happens if you go too deep entry and or exit? You lose the grip on the right front. It just stops rotating. And I think the reason he just ducked to the pit lane, in fact, is even though there's no meatball flag, suspension damage for the lead.
Side by side for the race lead. Agnell Phillip sees an opportunity to walk away with the race lead. Freenars up the track, trying to fight back on the outside line. Don't discount the outside line here at Dover. It is useful. That inside line is the one with the advantage. Farinaj gets pushed up into the outside wall. He just barely brushes the safer barrier and still holding on in a side-by-side battle.
He's got to be careful. Any more hits like that, he might break the tie rod and hurt the speed. This car may be considered a tank by some. Even a small wall tap like that can put you down straight line.
It's also got to think, Justin, that's got to be burning up those Goodyear tires like we talked about earlier, and Agno Phillip will get that lead back. I would not be surprised if Andrew Farinaj said, you know what, Agnel, I'm going to let you grab the lead. I'm going to let you grab the clean air a little bit, because him being stuck on that outside, JP, did no favors for his tires.
I think the wall hit definitely didn't do any favors with the tires and the speed. Yeah, because people think, oh, it's fine, I just scrubbed the wall. That's a 12.5-second repair in the pit lane if you hit it hard enough. What happens when you hit that hard enough? Puts you down 5 miles an hour on the straight line speed, similar to the old damage model. But that's kind of a balance of, you can't hit the wall every time with this car for good measure. It's a car that can handle some hits on the side of the back, but it can't handle you driving into these tires every time and risking breaking the tire and the axle.
Also got to think about the repeated wall hits as well. This is Dover, where the turn 2 and turn 4 walls just seem to jump out at these drivers and catch them off guard. Battle in the mid-pack. We hear from Dylan Coyle, who describes Dover as a roller coaster. I've heard that description before, and honestly, I agree with it. But the battle's mid-pack. It's Austin Coop and Brandon Gass that are side by side. Coop is going to get by Gass. Gass gets out of the throttle for a minute there off of turn 2, and here comes Michael Loraya to join the fray, all in the battle for P9.
Yeah, I think a lot of these drivers are partly holding each other up, but partly just trying to see, where do I go? Where do I get the poke? Because, yeah, the inside line's preferred for passes, but Dance is going to be a good showcase of this. You can pinch a little bit from the top. That allows you to be able to defend an extra couple laps at the very least from the high side, like Brandon Gass is doing up here. So you have drivers like Danson, even with teams like Altus, that are just boxed in back here.
Boxed in is right as Danson tries to get to the inside of Gass again. Thomas George watching from behind. Jaron Winemaster within this group as well, and Danson's finally going to clear him, but Gass right back to the inside. Danson covers the spot off, and the 20 gets out of the gas for a moment and will fall back into line. Catching back up with your leaders, they're still just as close as they were. Farinaj ahead of Burke, ahead of Cato, who has now joined this slight 4-car breakaway. Cody Harris is back there as well, but not as close to this group of 4 as they all bide their time. Only 24 laps completed out of 200 tonight. Still a long, long way to go.
There's 4/10 of fall off so far. It might sound like it's not too much with this car. Fall off's around a second and a half, I noticed, depending on the circuit and all. But it can go away fast if you're not amongst some of these top drivers, or better yet, those with the experience to maintain the tires. We've seen over the years drivers like Philip and Farinaj in particular become masters at that craft. But it's easier when you have track position. But getting the pass done is a whole different story, I think, here, Josh, that's going to come down to the pit strategy in about 50 laps time.
Looking back at the last couple of years here, the Dover Motor Speedway, I was wondering what we had seen in terms of drivers going to victory lane in the Cup Series history. Andrew Farinaj is a 4-time Dover winner. Cody Harris, who runs currently in P5, is our latest winner from the 2023 Cup Series campaign in this very race at the beginning of May last year. So the drivers up front know exactly what they're doing when it comes to the Dover Motor Speedway, and Agno Phillip knows exactly what he's doing when it comes to driving in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series. Might not have a Dover win under his belt, but he is looking for a Dover win number 1 in the Cup Series. The battle for second is going to blow apart a little bit. Burke misses the apex of turns 3 and 4. He dives it back down, gets a run on Farinaj, and here comes the 19, looking for race win number 3 on the year. He's to the inside of Farinaj for P2.
Those arcs were fully by design, I think, to try and at least get an extra bit of a diamond, use the ramp, the banking as an extra bit of ramp. It's a high amount of banking here with a Monster Mile, but if you do it just right, get the arc here, get back to full throttle, you get the run for turn 1. The problem is, the longer you go on this run, the harder it is to make a pass. In the past, after all, if you remember with the Gen 6 car, the thought was it takes up to 10 laps for a pass. It's a little bit quicker, per se, but it's also infinitely more difficult if you can even get to the side-by-side.
On board with Ross Cato, both in his camera that we get courtesy of the RaceSpotTV Zoom and in sim on the hood of that number 12 Ford Mustang. A Formula Rim user. I like it for the road courses. I'm honestly questionable about it, JP, when it comes to a short track race like Dover. I kind of want the ability to have a little bit more play in the wheel. Feels like the Formula Rim, my hands are just kind of stuck.
I'm surprised how much wheel he's putting into it, and it's not cooking his tires quite yet, because we've seen a lot of the front runners go an extra couple degrees with the full rim. He's got a little bit more jitteriness in the wheel, and that's the one concern I have about a Formula wheel in a short track, is the fact it'll bounce you around if your force feedback's too high. But it's all down to user preference, is it not? It's not as simple as, I have enough money to buy 5 different sim rig rims. Let's swap them all whenever I feel like driving a car.
It's interesting. Oh, I'm so sorry for cutting you off, JP.
I think Dylan has a point.
I do have a point. Thank you. I was going to say it's very interesting at Dover here with how the banking is, and it kind of feels like you fall off going into the corners, but then as you try and go into the straightaways, it just kind of ramps up. So that's when I say roller coaster, it's definitely, that's what it feels like here.
Got Brett Larson behind you. Jason Landry joining us for the first time here in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series. Still battling on the edge of the lead lap, and Larson's now to your inside. Dylan fighting side by side into turn 1. I'll ask you mid-battle, because he did give us permission to ask you questions mid-battle. I don't know when you gave us that permission, but I'm pretty sure you did. What's the strategy coming up here as we edge closer and closer to potential green flag pit stops?
Well, I was catching up to the pack in front of me right then before I started talking, and now I'm back behind these two. So the strategy right now is try not to go 3 wide in the middle here, and think about pit stops in a bit.
All right, copy that. Stop yapping to us and get back to racing.
Copy.
I think he talked first, JP. I don't know if that was our fault.
I did.
Yeah, he did definitely talk first. Brett Larson's nearly crashing him, but for the time being at least, back to the... I think they're okay back here for now. Let's let him calm down for a moment.
For a second.
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, Ross Cato with the Formula Rim. It's so far looking, though, the user preferences seem to be at least solid here. The one thing I've noticed, Bradley Burke, for those pass attempts, has cooked his tires. Just from trying to get an extra arc for a few laps, it's cooked them.
Oh, guys, there might be a wreck right in front of me. Ross Cato going into, or it's not Cato, it's Austin Coop into the outside wall in turn 2.
Coop slams the catch fence there in turn 3. No caution. Will stay green. Will rejoin the battle with now Cody Harris, Ross Cato, and Bradley Burke as they fight for P3. We'll grab a replay here in just a moment, but it sounds like a little bit of contact between a couple of drivers there, and Austin Coop, commentator for us a little bit here on RaceSpotTV in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, just gets a small tag and ends up off and into the safer barrier. JP, replay coming up. Let's see this one.
Yeah, right here. You can't just do that in the middle of the corner at Dover. I expect that at Martinsville, but not Dover. Quite simply, Coop was struggling, yeah, but at the same time, bump and runs at a track like this are not pretty. It opens up a can of worms, possibly, for other bump and runs.
Honestly,
It's
I'm
also,
impressed with Austin Coop's ability to keep it up on the top of the racetrack and not bring out a caution flag. He kept it up against that safer barrier, Dylan.
It's also quite fun seeing it happen right in front of you. I think Jaron Weinmaster now just tried to move Thomas George out of the way, so this is definitely fun.
seeing where those short track tempers are starting to come out, and they seem to be around that number 6 machine of Thomas George. He's got a group behind him as we go side by side. This is Cody Harris and Ross Cato for P4. Harris trying to steal that fourth place away, and he will by a couple of inches. Taking a look at Harris and Cato right now as they work their way down the front straightaway.
And you mentioned Cody Harris has experience winning with this car after all. I think this is a good solid race for him as a result. Well, very obviously, in fact. Just has to be able to get some track position. Quite simple as that. He's just, I think, waiting long run, wait to see how it goes, try and save the tires, then go if it demands it. Right now, he doesn't need to go too far. We've already seen it quite simply. You try and gain all the time at one go, you're going to be paying the price within 10 laps from that point. I think he's just waiting to let the field come to him.
Last time we were here at the Dover Motor Speedway, I mentioned it was a Cody Harris win there. It was only about 8 lead changes on that day. We have only had about 2 lead changes so far here tonight as Maverick Davis tries to insert himself here into the top 5 battle. Looks to try and get around Ross Cato, looks to the outside. That's a bold move, but I think Cato might have cooked his tires a little bit, JP. That's not 1 spot lost. That is now 2 as Maverick Davis goes around the outside to take P5.
That was my one concern on the twitchiness, but also just how much force we were seeing from that Formula rim. Because everyone else with the rim in general was going about 10-15 degrees at most. You go 20-25 with this car, it's pushing it. In other words, I think right now Cato absolutely has fried the tires, and he's going to need a caution to be able to get an equal playing field. He's not good on the long run with that tire setup.
Well, I just got rear-ended by Thomas George.
I was about to say, Dylan, I see you in this battle with Thomas George, one of the closest battles on the racetrack, and did you get a little bit of a bumper there in the middle of turns 3 and 4?
Oh, yeah, I got a 4X.
That's a big bump. That ain't a small move you out of the way short track style. That's a proper hit.
How's my rear?
Unfazed, but the wild thing in my thought on that is you're running 15th, correct?
Oh, yeah, I didn't even realize.
You're telling me he tried to bump and run you for 15th?
He did apologize right after, but I don't think I wanted to give him the dignity of a, it's okay.
Well, at least you look happy.
I'm so happy.
Well, good to know that you're having fun out there for the meantime. And Dylan, we'll let you go once again. Feel free to pipe up whenever you're, I guess, getting another bump and run. George is a little bit further behind you now, so I think you're good for a little bit. Side-by-side battle up ahead of you, though. That's Jason Landry and Brandon Gass side-by-side for P11. Gass around the outside, hits the outside wall in 4.
I don't think he's going to last that much longer with hits like that. He's been trying to push it on the squeezes. And the more you try and push like that high side, the more you just kill those tires. I think Brandon Gass's limits are just about to be pressed, especially with the feel of the car. You can tell it's not handling well after the hit.
You can almost see that right side of that car pushed inwards. And Gass now having to think of how to stop the bleeding, as doesn't look like a yellow flag is anywhere close to the horizon, unless with this battle up at the front for P2 with Farinaj, Burke, and Harris goes south. Only other close battle is Gass and Larson. Further back, P13 and 14. DeAndre Kane back onto the racetrack after contact earlier to bring out caution number 1. And Matt Danson, another start and park to get his start numbers up there so he can compete for the playoff spot. The Melbourne, Australia native has done that a couple of times this season, and the battle for second has gotten a lot closer as there's the battle for third. Harris to the inside of Bradley Burke.
I think Burke's starting to get a little bit frustrated in his own head. This is exactly what I talked about for Harris. Let the cars in front come to him. Freenash has fallen off. Burke is pushing so hard, he's causing himself to lose spots here. And that's the frustration point that can come up at a racetrack like this. If you can't clear, guess what happens when you try and reset? Someone else is ready to try and clear, and because you lost so much momentum side by side, you you end up 9 times out of 10 losing the preferred spot in the preferred race group. I think Burke is another one of those that just needs a chance to reset here, a chance to breathe, and then sort out how to make the pass and build some time up.
Wins at 2 completely different racetracks this season for Bradley Burke. One at Las Vegas, one last week at Talladega. Can he get another third incredibly unique win here from the Dover Motor Speedway? Can't help but notice, JP, just a little bit further back from this group, this is Maverick Davis, and his line there through turns 1 and 2 was almost running a intermediate style outside line. He keeps it to the inside of turns 3 and 4, but we've talked a lot about the arc of the corner, about hitting those 2 apexes, about you see Bradley Burke do at that time as well, go way up then way down. Is that what these drivers are trying to do to maximize the amount of speed they can get off of these corners, especially with the tires wearing?
For Burke, yes, because costs him a little bit apex, but he gets a big run straightaway wise when he hits it just right. For everyone else, though, the reason they're picking this line with Freenosh, just a touch bit of slip up, then go down, try and get the diamond down for the exit of the corner, keep it a bit more flatter on exit, gets a solid run. But Harris is just that much better on this long run.
The inside goes Cody Harris for P2, trying to chase down Agnew Phillip in front, side by side for second. It's through to turn 1. Farinar's trying to power along the outside line. But Cody Harris very strong on the inside, and another clean exit off of turn 2. Here comes Bradley Burke to insert himself in this battle. Farinar's is going to clear the 28. Not for long. Here comes Harris back to the back bumper.
I don't think Freenot's going to hold off both of these drivers at the rate things are going. He looks like he's burned up a little bit too much. Not to the point of pushing off. Just doesn't have the speed he needs. Harris is the quickest of these 3 cars should say. It's just he needs to get reset for the pass attempt. Get clear of Burke, regroup, get alongside Freenosh. Just look at the exit. Just loses a ton of time having a lift to be able to rotate.
They slot back into exactly how they were before Cody Harris went to the inside of Farinar's. It's 88, 28, 19 with the 15 of Maverick Davis trying to catch up to this group. As far as the rest of the pack goes, as they currently run here on the first long green flag run of the night, touching lap 60 now of 200. Not a lot of battles elsewhere. There's a close battle around Grant Davis and Michael Araya. That's for PH currently. Sam Nieto trying to catch up to a still falling number 12 of Ross Cato. That's back for P6. You got Jason Landry and Jaron Winemaster further back. They're battling for 10th. And then you've got Manazzi Major catching in-race reporter Dylan Coyle currently. That is back for P15. So battles everywhere on the racetrack currently as Bradley Burke falls into the clutches now of Maverick Davis. And Cody Harris looks to try and get a move done on Andrew Farinars from the outside to the top, side by side again, down the back straightaway to 3.
And yet again, Harris, I think, is quicker. The problem is, he just can't get the exit he needs because, well, he's not cleared by Apex. That's the trick of passing it over. You clear by Apex, you get the proper exit. You don't clear by exit, you have a massive problem to be able to get the proper speed to even keep side by side here. Harris is just reaching with the very wrong spots, and now look at that, Burke's bump drafting him.
Bradley Burke wants to start moving, and he's starting to move people out of the way. That's Thomas George to the inside. He's 2 laps down, pitted 12 laps ago to put some fresh shoes on that car. So he's going to go all the way around. This group gets shopped by Cody Harris going through turn 2. Gets stuck in the middle for the meantime, but now is going to try and get back around this now side-by-side group. Where does Thomas George go? He's had a couple of bump and runs and a couple of run-ins with some drivers today. What's he going to do with the 88 and 28 as they go side-by-side again into 1?
There's no way he tries to bump and run with the leaders. That's going to be very not looked upon if that's the case. But for Harris, you just got to let him go. You can't just spend your time trying to fight with the driver on fresh tires. If anything, your hope is have Freenosh fight with him, but it doesn't look like that's going to be enough of a case.
Well, Farinar's had to lift off the exit of that corner, though. That might be the saving grace that Cody Harris wanted to bring him back into his clutches. But Burke and Davis still running there very close together for that next battle on back. Sam Nieto and Ross Cato are now also going side by side. This is the group running for P6. Top of your screen running for P2.
Yeah, that pop battle, I'm still keeping an eye on. Harris just, again, is quicker. Problem is, you just can't get the pass unless you try something different. I think Harris needs to get away to pass. He's going to pit, in fact. He's pitting on lap 67. He's going for the 2-stop on tires.
Cody Harris is in. He is going to lay his bed right now as Burke will try and fight with Farinaj. Big question here, JP. Does anybody follow the 28 in? He pits alone on a strategy that if nobody goes with him, he'd be the only one on this specific strategy. Only other driver to pit recently, DeAndre Kane's 15 laps down. I'm not counting him. Only driver I'm counting is Thomas George, 17 laps ago. And now Dylan Coyle calls on the radio. He's coming in this time.
Grant Davis as well. He just said it right there. Dylan identifies the point. Might as well. Remember I mentioned around 67 to 70. We're in that window. Maverick Davis coming in this time over the radio. Lead pack is being drawn in. And this is what I mentioned. You get an undercut on your competitors, you can jump them quickly.
Davis in, still nothing from your current race leader, Agnel Phillip, or current second place, Andrew Farinaj, who still has Bradley Burke behind him. Does anybody else elect to pit here soon? Or is drivers going to try the one-stop strategy? Nobody this time by from your couple of leaders. Only driver that comes in is Ross Cato. The 12 comes in from, I believe, P5 at the moment he came into the pits.
And a lot of these tires, I'm going to be curious, find out if when we get some numbers here, because these tires look like for some are shredded. I don't know if you can fully stretch to the one stop. It's going to be tight, I think, on the tires more so than the fuel. But it is the thought process of trying to take advantage of the pit delta. It's 47 seconds. If there's a caution, you get pinched 2 laps down. We've already talked about for a lot of these drivers, including Harris. However, it is one of those where you have to play massive defense. At the end, there's Davis stuck in a line that's going to cost Davis critical time.
He looks to the outside. Andrew Farinaj with the call over the radio. He is pitting in this time. Only other driver to pit that last time by was Steve Soa from the back of the lead lap pack. Sam Nieto calls he's pitting. Michael Loraya calls he's pitting. Agnel Phillip, race leader, stays on the racetrack. Burke from now P2 stays out. Farinaj in, Nieto in, Loraya in. Anything from Landry or Larson behind, we get Landry. Larson stays out.
And it looks like Phillips coming in this time by. He didn't do a call on the radio, but the 94 joined this train. And at this point, this is going to be pretty solid for Phillip. He had the buffer to work with, mind you. The fall off only was about 1.5 seconds a lap. He's going to become Superman after the pit stop. Burke as well is going to need to become Super Duper Man if he wants to make up some of this lost time here.
Burke stays on the racetrack. You can see the drivers in the pit lane, and as they exit on the bottom of your screen, here comes Burke now from the race lead. Brandon Gass makes the call to pit as well. Still waiting on Austin Coop and Brett Larson. Looks like those are the only 2 drivers we're waiting from the drivers that have yet to pit. Meatball flag for Eric Papanow. He'll have to take care of that from 2 laps down.
I think he blew the tire. I think the tires can't even make it 75. Papanow.
I'm done, guys.
What happened, Dylan?
Carb's coming out of the pits. Done. Race over.
And well, that's depressing. I think it was Jared Winemaster you were trying to avoid.
Wow.
We'll grab a replay of that in a second here, but as the pit road cycles its way through, see if we can see exactly what happened to Papanow as well. But Austin Coop, now the only driver that has yet to pit, 77 laps on those tires, and a charging Cody Harris behind, who is coming very, very, very quickly to try and catch the back bumper of Austin Coop. Not seeing an interval there, but trust me, he's catching quick. About 10 seconds now, that gap that was just about 13 seconds a lap ago.
Yeah, that's not a surprise in the interval, obviously, but it is a gamble. Remember, Coop was towards the tail end of the lead lap, has already been punted out of the way by one driver, has damage to the rear end. Essentially, the bank is on for a caution flag to be able to get himself at least cycled to the lead lap with some fresher tires and to fix the car. The problem is, that's going to be difficult. Yeah, that was difficult for Coyle. I think he was committed bottom. The lap car was to the bottom.
Yeah, Dylan, unfortunately, not much you could have done there.
I think he already left.
He left the whole booth?
Yeah.
Wow. Shows you how much of a real one he is. Gets wrecked out and just decides to leave us instead of hanging out. Man, I think you know a guy.
But, I mean, I don't blame him if you have that line.
Oh, no, I don't either. I'm just
But
it's Dylan. I got a rib on Dylan.
The tough thing is, it's pit exit. You have to expect somebody's going to come out of the pit lane in that point. You have to keep your eyes on a swivel for that viewpoint, have your eyes in the relative box. It's just where you need to exit to be able to get out for the blue cone. To be able to optimize the line, you need to be right where Dylan was at the time of the incident.
Tough as well when he's trying to just get back into the rhythm of things to go on to another green flag run and then just ends up having that happen. Coop is still on the racetrack, 81 laps on those tires. He has not touched the pit lane yet this race. 4 seconds the gap now, make it 3.5 seconds back to race leader Cody Harris. When does Austin Coop decide to bring it into the pit lane? He decides to bring it in now. I think he just went as long as he physically could on those tires and now is going to come in for a bit of an extreme overcut there, JP. Was all that running even worth it?
I think, again, he was just hoping there was going to be a caution flag to save him. Look at the right front and the left front. That car was destroyed, so not surprised. But that battle for the lead is going to get interesting. Harris with the undercut jumped everybody he was battling. But however, Phillip is on fresher tires and is coming up pretty quick. Just confirmed, Austin Coop blew his right front, lap 80.
That's unfortunate for Austin Coop. He tried to go as long as he could. Now going to spend a bit of extra time in the pit lane. But where we sit now, Cody Harris with the race lead, 1.6 seconds that gap. Not exactly at halfway yet, but nearing that halfway point. And JP, brand new for this season. We've talked about it in the first 8 rounds of this season. It is the halfway bonus points. The end of lap 100 or whatever halfway lap is designated by race control for the race. Top 10 will earn bonus points. 10 for the first place driver, 9 for second place, and all the way down to 1 point for 10th. So that does add in to a little bit of the strategy for these drivers. Bonus points are on the line. And as we see this group with Grant Davis, Ross Cato, Thomas George is in this group and more. They're fighting for some bonus points that they can earn in the end of lap 100.
I don't think George is going to make it to the bonus points in terms of the top 10 with how they're grouped up here. But you have a layer upon another layer of strategy. Layers of lap cars here too. It's Thomas George's worst nightmare. He just got boxed in and lost all the spots because there is nowhere to go in this spot except pick a line and hope it's the right one.
Sam Nieto now alone in this group. This is for P7, Michael Laraya. There's Bradley Burke, as he was running within the top 3, now runs P9. Ross Cato's catching up to the back bumper of Grant Davis in front of him. This is a lot of different tire strategies up here at the front of this field, and we can take a look at those stint numbers for everybody. That is the amount of laps they have gone since the last time that they hit pit road. Everybody changing tires, so you can really use this as a measure of tire wear. 21 laps on Harris, 14 on Phillip, 19 on Davis, 15 on Farinaj. Those numbers might be close, and honestly, JP, I'd say we're talking Charlotte, or if we're talking Texas, I'd be like, all those stint numbers are so close together, it doesn't really matter. Dover, it does. 14 laps versus 16 is a decent enough gap. 14 to 19 is more extreme. 14 to 21, it's almost two completely different strategies.
Yeah, it's to the point where race lead is on. No shock before you even tend to go on the stage, or the first half of the race, should say now. Philip on those fresher tires just going to be that much quicker by a tenth or two a lap. It's well out of the equalization point by at least 10, 15 laps for some of these drivers too, compared to some of the R5 bands. Not a shock that pass went that quick and that fast on the fresher tires.
Very quick pass made, quick work for Agnell Phillip on Cody Harris. I was just mentioning that tire wear, that 7-lap difference between these two sets of tires. Couple of lapped machines up in front, but further back, this is Ross Cato and Grant Davis. They are side by side for P5. As we enter into this second green flag run, Sam Nieto joins this group as well. Bradley Burke, Michael Loria's in it. This is a 5-car battle for P5.
Remember, Cato's been good in the first 40 laps of a run. Not a surprise to see him charging ahead here, but it's dead even pace amongst them. Nieto, wow, what is he doing going 3 wide? That was a little bit of a bold thought by Nieto to go 3 wide. Well, also calling 3 wide when he made it 3 wide.
Davis up top, Cato now down low. Battle for 5th. Nieto looks to the inside. Davis powers along the outside line. Side by side off turn 2. Does Nieto make it 3 wide? He's flirting with it. It won't be 3 wide by the time they reach turn 3. Cato gets out of the gas, lets Nieto go on through. Cato from 5th to 7th in the matter of about a half lap.
Well, Nieto, remember, has fresher tires than these drivers by 5 laps, and that's enough to push. Cato, though, just getting steamrolled by the fresher tires. Grant Davis, what is he doing?
Into the wall. Burke's hard into the inside wall. Laria's in it, and the caution flag waves. That is right in the middle of this race, right in the middle of the green flag run. And what does this do for strategy? Nobody good to the end. And a 3-car pileup on the back of the racetrack throws us into a yellow flag.
I just don't believe it. I don't know why Grant Davis did that down the middle of the straightaway. Because remember, Nieto had 5-lap fresher tires. He was a faster car at that point of the run. My thought is, quite simply, just let it go. And instead, he wrecked his teammate. Like, look at this. He just turns left down the straightaway.
In Nieto into Burke. Burke gets into Laria. That was some hard hits as well. Burke's out of this race. Very, very fast. Number 19, Chevy Camaro.
Yeah. Yeah, again, Davis just wrecked his entire team. I don't know, again, if it's intentional or not, but what in the world happened? Even if you think you got a little bit of a squeeze down on Nieto, the thought again is just let it go. Just let him go. He's on 5-lap fresher tires. He closed him by 3/10 beforehand.
On board with Grant Davis. Let's see if there's any play to this wheel.
I don't know if he just had a slight bobble down there with the wheel, or if there was suspension. I don't know, but it's gonna make the halfway points a bit spicy.
This is gonna be a race off pit road for halfway, but bonus points. Nobody takes any gambles. It's Phillip ahead of Harris, Davis, Farinaj, Cato top 5. How about, I just saw Jason Landry exit the pit lane as well within the top 10. First night for him. He's looking to grab some halfway bonus points on night 1.
I just kind of stunned because I had to make sure on the team records here to make sure this right. That was all 4 of the flat out cars in one crash. I don't understand that. But at the bright side, Phillip's probably going to be happy. It's a one-stopper from here regardless.
Got to remember as well, JP, in terms of wrecks and yellow flags caused in the Real Sim Racing Cup Series. There is a well, we're just getting news from Race Control as well. I was gonna say, you need to claim your yellow flags. If you don't claim it and take your end of longest line penalty, then you're going to end up having admin review, which leads to penalty points, which could lead to suspensions and more race control intervention from there. Joshua Mendoza filling in for normal race control Evan Pasoko tonight, and he has issued a black flag to the number 24 Grant Davis for an intentional wreck. Must be noted as well, that was not a claimed incident by Grant Davis. That was deemed as intentional by Race Control. So that was the yellow flag for the number, or the black flag for the number 24. And it looks like he is already at the end of the longest line. Not sure if it'll be a drive-through penalty or what exactly he will have to serve here.
Well, remember, Josh Mendoza is one of the top race control admins in all of iRacing, I argue. And he won't deal with any business like that. That was absolutely absurd. I still don't understand the process, because those were all teammates. Grant just, again, with the race control review, you can argue with the allegedly, wrecked his entire team. I don't understand.
And that penalty is going to be a 2-lap hold in the pit lane. So that is going to be race over for Grant Davis and add another Flat Out Esports car that unfortunately is going to have their night ended. This halfway bonus just got a lot more interesting.
Yeah, Brandon Gass already just told everybody, I'm here just for the points and then I'm letting you go. He still needs to restart, though, if he wants the 10 points. Here's the problem. The tires, 24 laps, there's going to be a massive amount of tire spinning for this restart zone.
Now, this halfway bonus is brand new for this season of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. So we haven't had a lot of weird scenarios with this yet. This might take the cake, and this might be the only time we see this season. We will hit the Geico restart zone, cross the start-finish line, and the halfway bonus points will be given out. Let's see what's going to happen. Gas wants those points. He hits the Geico restart zone. Does he have enough grip? He hits the loud pedal. He will get the maximum amount of halfway points. P10 is going to go to Braden Whitaker, but as they race back to turn number 1, Agnell Phillip with a big run along the outside. Gas held up his end of the bargain. He's going to let the leaders race through.
And nice and respectful there. He stayed out for what a reason. Halfway stage win. Now Phillip and company can just set sail. A true test, though, for Harris. Does he have the pace to go equal footing with the 94 now that he's got the tires equalized on strat?
Grant Davis comes down. He is serving that 2-lap hold, but back to the race leaders. Harris now on the same lap old tires as Phillip. Same thing with Maverick Davis. Same thing with Andrew Freenar. Same thing with Ross Cato. Everybody right now running in this top 7 are all on equal tires and now fighting at the start of this run. Maverick Davis looks to the inside. Harris is in the wall. That is a big hit for the 28.
Something broke for Harris or something. Remember what I talked about? Where if you go too hard on the gas or something, it just stops cutting? Something like that had to happen, or a tech issue. It just straight up stopped turning.
That was a massive hit to the outside wall. We've got the replay on board with Cody Harris. Screen went black, just heard over the iRacing voice chat, JP.
Yeah, no idea where he was, yeah. And the problem is there, it's the middle of the corner. He was rotating too much, and that just destroyed him because he's got suspension damage. He hit the wall so hard. Throw Harris out of contention.
Winner of this spring Dover race in the 2023 campaign. Not going to win it tonight. That's all the flat out cars. That's Harris out of this race. Bradley Burke, another driver that has been running up front since we dropped the green flag. Now we've got almost completely different top 5. Maverick Davis, who has been kind of flirting with the top 5 all night, has been running within it that much, but now runs P2. Andrew Farinarz, Ross Cato, 2 drivers that have been running within the top 5. And Thomas George, who admittedly might have started this race a little bit too aggressive, now sits within the top 5 on equal footing with the rest of the leaders.
I don't know how Thomas George is going to play out long term, though. That's my question mark, because after 30 laps, you drop back. It's going to take a lot of precision, a lot better precision to move forward. Big test for Landry, though. Seen him pop up a little bit as of late in the league scene. He's based out of Canada. He's amongst one of the teams that's picked up sponsorship with the Garza Law Firm. That's a team that's had, or rather, that sponsor that's bounced around a couple major teams in the past few months, in the past year or so. Landry, I think, is amongst those you can throw in the category of he wants to learn and he wants to be better and fast.
Running P6 right now, looking at an amazing debut as he hits the wall a little bit off turn 4. Here comes Michael Laraya to the inside for 6th. That number 44 Sim Speed Shop Chevy Camaro always has some speed. Laraya looking to go back to victory lane for the first time in a little bit of running in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, and also looking for a locked-in spot in the playoffs. Battle closer up to your leaders. Farinarz and Cato are close. This is pretty much exactly what we saw at the start of the first green flag run, JP. Pretty single file throughout the rest of the field. Sam Nieto looks to the inside of Winemaster, and Cato trying to get around Andrew Farinarz now for 3rd.
Yeah, Farinarz just getting the best of runs right now in the heart of the pack. I don't think he's as comfortable in dirty air compared to when he had the lead earlier. You burn up a little more stuff in terms of the traffic. You just have that dirty air that forces you a little bit more tighter, cooks you right front an extra bit more. I don't think Farinarz is liking the balance now from that.
Side by side between now Laraya and Thomas George. That 44 is trying to make quick work of some of these drivers up front, but Farinarz is tired of running on the 3rd step of the podium. He moves up to the 2nd step of the podium. Farinarz to 2nd, and this is exactly how we started the race. Farinarz and Phillip top 2. Does Farinarz have enough to stay on the back bumper of Agnel Phillip to try and prevent him from being in the lead much longer?
I mean, I think he does. It's just, can he get a better run past 45 laps compared to the last one? That would be around the time in your pit stops again. He just needs to be able to keep the pace up in there. Davis, though, he's having to play massive blocks. Cato's trying to take 2 peaks on him in 2 corners and has had to take the high line not to run him over.
Back through 1 and 2. Farinarz gonna try and regroup and look for a possible way by Agnel Phillip. You can see the single file nature now of these leaders up at the front. They know they still have another pit stop on the horizon. JP, what's that magic number that these drivers are looking for a yellow flag? We saw drivers go upwards of around 80 laps on those tires. Seemed like 75 was about the point of no return on the tires. With 75 to go, are you going to expect another pit stop if we get a yellow flag, or are you pitting underneath 75 to go and just going to run those good years all the way to the end?
Well, we're coming up to 85 to go here, but to answer the question regardless, I think the first thought is, do you split it up the middle or do you try and stretch it to 35 to go? Because once you get past 35 laps to go, I think you're really pushing it just to get anywhere for that 65 yet again. But even better so, by that point, you're either banking a caution, you're still on the racetrack for another 15, 20 laps after that, or you are just not liking the strat in yourself in terms of your pack and trying to see something different. I think your pit window starts up with 50 to go, then works its way towards 35 to go in the optimal window. Past that, you're taking risks.
Working their way back across the start-finish line. 83 laps to go from the virtual Dover Motor Speedway. Phillip still leads. Farinarz in 2nd. How about Maverick Davis sitting there in 3rd? We've seen a good amount of Maverick Davis, especially as of late here in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series. Still on the hunt for race win number 1. JP, he runs 3rd right now on this racetrack, but running his first season with the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series this year in 2024. His best finish is 4th at a short track of Richmond, and that has been his only top 5 finish so far this season. How would he feel if he walks away with not only a podium, but I think he's shown some race win speed, especially if he has the right strategy.
I think he's good if there's a short run to be able to try and make a move if it really comes down to it, to a 5-10 lap shootout. But I think he's going to be happy as a whole if he can hold on top 5. Especially since, you know, everybody else you throw into that conversation had a crash or is out of the race at the moment. So at this point, you take the points, take the smiles, you take the top 3. That being said, a lot of cars are doing well despite some of the damage from the hits. Those flat-out machines that are involved in the trouble, like Rariah and Nieto, they're somehow running solidly in 6 and 7 despite all of their fenders being crushed up in the backdrop.
Inside of 80 to go. Phillip hits the outside wall that time at a turn 4. Another brush. We're not talking about kissing the wall at Darlington Raceway yet. That's going to be in 2 weeks' time. But the outside walls here at Dover sneak up incredibly quick. Looking back, Cato still on the back bumper of Maverick Davis, and I'm glad I caught this in the stat book, JP. This is start number 200 in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series for Ross Cato. How sweet would it be for the number 12 to go to victory lane today and be winning on his 200th start and walk away with RSR victory number... Trying to find the number. I can't even find the number of wins. No wins, it looks like, for Ross Cato.
I think you just said your own answer. I think it'd be extremely sweet if you were to win on start number 200, especially if your stat number is 0 for that category. I find it shocking at 0, though, because we've seen him jump in originally with the Grand National cars and with the Icebreaker, I believe, a while back. Jumped into the Cup cars. Was mid-pack when he initially started, when it was full-time at that series around 2020, 2021-ish. He's continued to just improve, I can very much arguably say, because of what he's been able to showcase with this car. He doesn't look happy with his run, though. Look at the face. He is frowning at his run.
Still has Maverick Davis, who is running now a completely different line in front of him to try and catch a little bit further up to Andrew Farinage in front of him. And I was definitely very quickly scanning the stat book and looking for, I wasn't expecting a whole lot from Ross, maybe like a single digit win number, maybe 10, 11. And I just completely scanned by the 0 in the win number column and the win percent column. So Cato still looking for race win number 1, which is honestly surprising in the amount that I've seen lately of the Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Ross is always running up front. That Fast Forward Esports Ford Mustang is always running close to the front. Just never been able to get it done. He's got speed here today, but Agnel Phillip has been in command since he took the lead away from Andrew Farinage. We talked about him qualifying P7 for this evening's race, JP. That has not slowed him down at all.
Yeah, Phillip is just continuously showcased. He's dead even on pace with his competitors for the first 35, but after that point, he's just saving those tires that much quicker and that much better. Right now, upwards of a 1/10 of a second, if not 2 quicker, when they're not battling behind him. I don't know if that's down to Farinage being a little bit worse off by that point, or if it's about the battles once they start getting past 40 laps. I think, honestly, it might take a lot of luck to be able to get around Phillip and time at a caution flags at the rate it's going.
These are the closest battles we've got on the racetrack right now. A battle between Michael Laraya and Braden Whitaker is starting to heat its way up. This is back for P9 as Jaron Winemaster almost hits the outside wall that time. Everybody's spacing out. This is another green flag run. We're on 32 laps in this green flag run currently, as side by side, closer up to the front, Jason Landry and Sam Nieto. Landry works his way past Sam Nieto, who was a little bit concerned on the iRacing voice chat. And JP, you see the damage to the right side of that car. He hit the wall off turn 4.
Yeah, I had to just let him go at that point with a massive slow up. Again, that's why I was surprised short run. He was keeping up so well. Landry, though, is getting a little bit dodgy. You know where he's been really making a name for himself in the past couple weeks is the roadside, to talk about Landry. Because he made himself known as one of the top qualifiers for the initial start in the history of SRO's Toyota GR Cup for the North American region that started up earlier this month. He's one of their top road course racers. He's showcasing he wants to get better on ovals too for his team, as this is what you were talking about. Just let him go.
I was assuming he hit the wall off 4. It sounded like a distress call over the iRacing voice chat. Just a very quick, like, oh, I hit the wall kind of call. But he just didn't. I mean, that was just a mistake off of 4 that led to that position swap, with Landry moving up in the running order. Lariah and Whitaker still in a battle, but up here at the front, Davis has not had Ross Cato get off of his back bumper just yet. Cato looks high, no run there. Davis covers off that spot again as the race leaders pull away to the tune of about 1 second in between Davis and Farinaj, and about another 1 second between Farinaj and Phillip. Cato goes all the way down to the bottom with a great run off turn 2. Does he clear Davis? He does by a few inches. And now Thomas George and Jason Landry have joined this group. 4 cars put a blanket under him as they fight for P3.
George just let him go in the backdrop. Knows Landry's quicker, but it's pretty clear something's off a bit with Davis all of a sudden in terms of the run. It's almost like things look fine, it looks fine, and then all of a sudden you just try and push for a couple laps and you find out in a few laps time if you cooked your tires or not. I think Davis has cooked him. He just hit the wall.
Tries to cover off that spot on Jason Landry again as he moves back to the bottom of the racetrack. This is giving Ross Cato a perfect opportunity to pull away at the front of the field. Thomas George has nothing for this group as well. He falls back a little bit. And now Landry doesn't have a way past Maverick Davis for the moment. We just saw a couple lap down, 27 to be exact. Bradley Burke on the back bumper of Andrew Farinaj. That's not a battle for position. However, this is, as Davis has been able to hold on now after barely tapping the wall and keeping Jason Landry behind him.
I don't think that's going to last too long. Landry has hit his stride in fast in the second half of the race. Landry, if anything, didn't have good speed. In fact, he started at the back, elected not to put up a qualifying time for his season debut. But he is a good character, I can tell you that, based on just what I've seen. And he doesn't want to, of course, wreck any of the regulars. Just wants to make sure he runs it clean, makes himself known, but doesn't make himself known for the wrong reasons. I think he's got the run here.
To the inside, Maverick Davis chops him. Was that contact between those two? Landry makes it work, but loose off of turn 2. They're still side by side for 4th. Into turn 3, more space given this time as Landry rotates on the inside. Davis defends on the outside. No contact to the wall, but Davis powers along the outside line to hold that spot.
Yeah, but Landry immediately getting himself back to the reset, back to trying to think smart with this. He's trying that diamond line we've seen earlier that worked out solidly for Bradley Burke all of a sudden. And here the pit window was opening up, 60 to go, but the reason is not for the leaders. The 20 who stayed up for the bonus points, but it's opening up the window this time by. We are just 10 laps away from the edge of the estimated window for drivers on tires.
If we do get a yellow flag here, that would be the final pit stop of the evening. I want to take a look really quickly at that pinch. You're on board with Landry. He made that move late. Very lucky he wasn't at the back quarter panel at Maverick Davis. He was instead at that back door. So that slight bit of contact could have been raced over for both of them.
Yeah, it was a little late on the lunge part, but he did show the nose before the braking zone. I think that was more so partly just Maverick Davis not wanting to give up the spot and at least making it challenging. And because you already see the results of that. Landry now has to reset. It's taken him 5 laps already just to get near passing point. And with that being said, we're about 40 laps into the run, right? Because Kato's fallen off.
Side by side now between Kato and Davis. Davis almost makes contact, washing up the racetrack in turn 4. Gets back to the inside. Side by side off of turn 2. He'll clear Kato. Exactly what you mentioned, JP. That 12 does not have a long run car. Assuming everybody runs about the same that they did in that first green flag run, we're looking at about 25 more laps before everybody comes down in the big waves. So that'll be 30 laps to go. That's within that short run range a little bit, because right now, if we're starting to see major fall off, especially between these leaders at around 48 in the stint, we're looking pretty good for a 30-lap run to the end, assuming, of course, that the drivers pit and come out of the pit lane around their competitors.
That's what I mentioned earlier on when you asked about the strategy. It goes to that same mindset. You just don't want to leave it too late to where you've got fresh tires, but you run out of time. That's my main concern if you go past the 30 or even 2:30 on the dot. If it was a track like Texas, absolutely push it to 25, 20 laps to go. But this is not the Lone Star State. This is the Monster Mile. And the Monster Mile comes back fast, and the pit window is open. Thomas George wants to go early on lap 53.
This is going to be a really early pit call. He's got the same amount on his tires as everybody else. That's 50 laps. He comes into the pit lane. Does that bring more people down? You're taking a look at Agno Phillip, who is your current race leader. No other calls for pitting in yet. Does anybody make a gamble? Is this a gamble from Thomas George?
Yeah, it's a gamble. Remember, Thomas George for multiple years now. If you're looking at a driver who likes to gamble, Thomas George is the first one who usually puts the chips up on the table and says, I like to gamble like we're at Las Vegas Motor Speedway every single racetrack. It's happened for, what, 5 years he's taken these gambles? It's not a winning strategy if it goes green, but if there's a caution and he's the one in the lead and everyone else then has to come in, guess who's the control car? Likely the 6.
Phillip still in the lead. Nobody else electing to pit yet. 50 laps to go. It'll be 50 laps on George's tires. He falls to 2 laps down now. Next driver to come in is going to be Steve Soa, who had an issue coming into the pit lane. Looks like he might have either locked it up or spun it. He is now 1 lap down. That happened after he had already entered the pit lane, so he's in for an alternate strategy. One of those drivers that is looking for that Hail Mary pass touchdown for the win.
Confirm. Soa spun into the pit lane and hit the barrels, not at the wall, not to the first barrels, the second barrels behind the cone. He's not going to be likely in contention for the lead lap at the very least. But Phillip, I don't think he's concerned about anyone who just ducked in. It's Andrew Freenosh. A little bit, maybe, I'd be concerned. But remember, look at the time buffer. That's 2-3 seconds. He can wait an extra 2 to 3 seconds, 3 laps rather, have fresher tires, come out right behind the 88, pass him within 5 laps, run away from there. He's in prime position to control his destiny.
47 laps left. Closest battle on the racetrack is between Sam Nieto and Braden Whitaker. We're tuning into that battle now for P7. Nieto up top, Whitaker down low. Fighting off of turn 4. Landry about to be in a battle with Maverick Davis, as well as everybody's aging tires starting to show their hands. Nobody else electing to pit though. Thomas George in a world of his own, already 4 laps removed from when he came into the pit lane. Still nobody else even thinking about it.
It's not think about it time yet. Give it about 2 minutes, then it's thinkable time. Just waiting for everyone's timers to go off, am I right? But in all seriousness, Maverick Davis, his tires are just starting to struggle a lot here. They are going off and going off. Remember, he was right on the bumper of the 88 about 10, 15 minutes ago, about 20, 30 laps ago. He's lost 2.5 seconds. That's how much he is struggling to end this run. It's to where the people on fresher tires are stuck behind him because there's no place to poke, and he doesn't want to let lappers go.
That's Brandon Gass to the inside. He's on new-ish tires. 13 laps on the stint counter for him. He is also 2 laps down, so out of running within this lead group. Easy way to know who is on the lead lap. It's the top half of your timing tower there. Call to pit from Sam Nieto. The number 2 Ford Mustang is looking to pit this time by. He goes to the inside. Braden Whitaker goes along the outside. Winemaster is going to follow him in. This is now 2 more drivers from the lead lap. Who follows these 2 in?
I think everyone from around them at this point. Remember, I mentioned this. It's about that time where the timer's going off for strategy. DeAndre Kane, for example, just had it issued out back straight for his pit entry. All the other leaders, I think you're about to see others in. Maverick Davis is in this time.
That's one from the top 5 now. Maverick Davis is pitting. Who else and when does everybody else come in? I'm really curious about Agno Phillip. Austin Coop has just made a call to pit. He is currently 1 lap down, but Davis is in. Braden Whitaker, Michael Araya, the latest to pit as well, and that number 44. Still waiting on your top 5. That's Major, Cato, Landry, Farinage, and Phillip.
I have a weird one for you right in the midst of this too, by the way. Matt Denson parked it for about 140 laps. He just re-entered the race.
I've definitely seen that before this season as well. He's 121 laps down, so the definition of not in this race, but he will try and finish, and I think he might be able to get past Dylan Coyle. My math is mathing correctly, so he is able to gain at least 1 more spot to potentially finish P21.
Which leads to the question, why he parked it on lap 30, but let's get to his teammate here, because Phillip, that cushion stayed 2.3 seconds. Expecting him within the next 8 laps, realistically speaking.
Caution.
Never mind, caution.
Austin Coop with a sorry over the radio. I see DeAndre Kane was slow. Austin Coop's completely spun around at the top of turn 1. And this changes everything. 5 cars are on the lead lap.
This helps major, but this has major implications. And quite simply, pit exit is difficult, especially if you hit the angle right, have the reps go wrong. Watch this. Past the cone, looks fine, but those transitions, he starts bouncing, hits a huge bump in the curving, and that just sends him wide. He just hit a huge bump on the apron.
That's rough, and luckily nobody else with damage, so he didn't take anybody else out in that, but he did throw a curveball into the strategies. Everybody in that top 5 is in. Agno Phillip, Andrew Freenage, and more. So that takes care of everybody else that was still waiting to pit. If they were gambling on a yellow flag, I think they should go play the lottery after this one, because they were correct. Phillip comes out first of this group and will lead your lead lap cars. What does this do now for the drivers trapped behind the pace car? That's Brandon Gass, Maverick Davis, Sam Nieto, Loraya. I think Steve Soa's in this group as well. And they are all in front of race leader Agno Phillip. So as long as they don't hit the pit lane, they will all get the wave around.
I think what this means for them is, I hope there's a quickie caution so I can get my tires onto the car. Because honestly, they're not going to have a chance for the race win on some of them 15 to 20 lap old tires. For some drivers, though, like Brett Larson, who was the lucky dog here, this was the break of the day. In fact, for Larson, he has been having a pretty rough one. He banks on the caution, gets just tail end of the lead, lap of time of caution. In fact, first the lap down with the pit cycle. He just got himself, if it stays green after this, a possible top 6, if not 5.
Now, with those wave arounds, you can see the stint counters on your timing tower as well. Agnew Phillip, technically your race leader. He and the rest of the top 5 all pitted under this yellow flag we're under right now. Brett Larson, lucky dog, is now into the pit lane as well to take off those older tires. Thomas George, Brandon Gass, 16 and 22 lap old tires respectively. And those are the only drivers that'll get the wave around and be even in contention on the lead lap. So they are not going to have a good time on this restart. However, there are a decent amount of drivers that will earn the wave around that are on decent enough tires to contend with the 5 that just came in. Maverick Davis, Sam Nieto, Michael Laraya all still have tires that can make a race win happen. But with 33 laps to go, it looks like it'll be when we go back under the green flag. That's still a long way to go on these tires if they are pushing as hard as they need to on a short run.
And better yet, looking at how things are looking interval-wise, they still need a caution to then get the fresh tires and battle for the lucky dog. Or should I say, they will be battling for the lucky dog. They need a caution and be the first to lap down, which is, again, much easier said than done, especially since we've already seen Davis be great short run tonight.
Leaves us with 7 drivers currently on your lead lap. Are they done wrecking? Only time is going to tell. In the last handful of Cup Series races here at the Dover Motor Speedway, we have not gone over the scheduled distance, and it looks like any of them as of late. So how is this one going to go? 34 laps remaining. Pace car back into the safety of the pit lane. Looks like one of the restarts we saw yesterday in the NASCAR Cup Series race at the real-life Talladega Super Speedway, with the only 3 drivers on the outside and everybody else lined up inside end of the longest line. We're back underway with Agnew Phillip away with the race lead. Andrew Farinar's contending for P2.
Yeah, but keep an eye on that battle for 3rd spot in particular, because again, remember, Cato's been good short run. Big test though for Landry, because this is the highest he's been all night long. Albeit, he now has the hundreds of laps down, Matt dancing on his bumper.
Landry tries to get by Cato. Nowhere to go in that run. Everybody in the rest of the field has severely spaced themselves out about as much as they could. Landry trying to hold off Danson. Farinar's just trying to chase down Agnew Phillip. That gap is 2 tenths as they exit turn 4. Farinar's is catching.
How much can he close? What a massive send. He just absolutely rocket launched it in. I think Phillip's just letting him try and burn up his own stuff to close. Take it out of the Farinar's playbook. Force the driver behind you to burn up their stuff while you save.
Farinar's looks for win number 5 at the Dover Motor Speedway in RealSimRacing Cup Series competition. Looks to the inside of Phillip. Phillip runs between the inside and middle lines. Nowhere for Farinar's to go. The amount of times we've seen the 94 and the 88 go battling, I remember back to the Bristol Motor Speedway. Very similar track to Dover, albeit much shorter and a little bit faster, where it was this battle all the way to the end. Is this going to be another Agnew Phillip win over Andrew Farinar's, or can the 88 go back to RSR victory lane?
It's going to take a moment to be able to try and group it up. Farinar's is showing he can close, but can he get a pass? That wall scuff's not going to help. The problem is Phillip is just parking at apex and is just saving it with the clean air. And right now, this run gets just to the point where Philip usually sees it turn on long run.
Start 204 for Andrew Farinaj. He has 46 total wins in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series. The last one has not come since March of 2023 at Virtual Phoenix Raceway. He looks to go back to victory lane in over a year. He's been close. Second place at Bristol, third place in Richmond, third place in Texas, third place last season at Bristol and Pocono. In his part-time schedule in 2023, now back to full-time in 2024. He has not been getting the wins that he has used to get in the RealSimRacing Cup Series. Now falls back a little bit. 3/10 is the gap for the lead.
I think he's cooked the tires. I think he's going to need a caution to have any more chances here because he's trying that diamond line and he's struggling to even get that down. The only thing that seems to be working is lunging it hard directly flat to the bottom into turn one to gain the time back. That line that we've seen drivers earlier do really well with, like Burke, it just isn't Farinaj's style here.
Back to the front straightaway and across the line again. 24 laps to go. Gap went from about 3.5 tenths now down to about 2.5 tenths to the back straightaway. Farinaj still is keeping him within a good distance, but it's exactly like what you said, JP. Those diamond lines that were really working for the 19 earlier tonight, not working as well for the 88. This is still a 2-horse battle, though. Look back to Ross Cato. He's in third, 1.5 seconds that gap. Jason Landry, Minazzi Major, Brett Larson, all within about 5 seconds on this racetrack. This is the closest battle with anybody on their respective lap.
I think for Andrew, though, with this strat of send it hard to the corner, wrap the bottom, hope it grips and hope it sticks, can only go so long because you're using a lot of front force on those tires in theory with how he's lunging it. If he wants a true shot, he's got to get it done within the next 10 laps, I think, if not the next 7. And then by that point, it's going to be extremely difficult unless Philip burned up his own stuff.
Back to 3/10. That gap not closing, but it's not getting unmanageable for the 88. Back through 3 and 4. This still is that only battle that we are monitoring right now. And what's at stake for Andrew Farinaj? I just mentioned it. It's that first win in over a year. Back to RealSimRacing Cup Series victory lane. What's at stake for Agnell Phillip? What's at stake is a 5th race win this season. Anybody else even close? 2 race wins for Bradley Burke, 1 for Minazzi Major. The 2-time RealSimRacing Cup Series champion has started this season much like Max Verstappen has started the last 3 seasons of Formula 1 competition, and that is almost unbeatable on the racetrack.
Yeah, since about that championship race, you can argue in 2022, it's like Philip has just had a switch flip for the entire time on the sim. Not just in RSR, that seemed to be the springboard for it. But winning that championship in 2022 kind of propelled him to say, maybe I should take this an extra step forward. Before, it seemed like something for fun. Even the RTP runs seemed to be something for fun when he made top 70 for the first time. But with how close he's been able to get already, he's kind of beating a lot of people's expectations for how he could perform when he first jumped into the sim, just for fun, I remember, back around 2019-ish.
Phillip has been almost perfect, hasn't put much of a step wrong in the last few seasons of competition. Just a couple of laps ago, it was purple lap times for Andrew Farinaj, and then right as Farinaj did that, and around lap 170, Agnell Phillip put purple on the board and started running back to the front of the field. Side by side between Brandon Gass and Steve Soa, both drivers 1 lap down. This is now your closest battle on the racetrack. Soa put a move into the inside of Brandon Gass, not able to do much about it. The 75 gets a little bit more of a run. This is back for P11. They might be one lap down, JP, but they're still racing each other for position on the racetrack, and more importantly, also for a bit of points for Steve Soa, who is on very close to that bubble cut line for the playoffs, and Brandon Gass trying to gain a little bit more points above that cut line. He sits P9 in the points.
And remember, it's been a rough race for both of these. Gas got the points though for the halfway on strat. Here's the problem. Soa's on much fresher rubber by 9 laps here. That 20 can only hold on for so long when you have that difference. Well, green flag laps, I should say, about 5 laps. It only is going to last so long before that rubber's going to say, nope, you have to let him go now.
13 laps to go. We'll keep monitoring that Soa and Gas battle, but we also have to keep our eyes on your race leader. Agnel Phillip had extended that gap out to about 7 8/10. It's gone down to about 5/10. Last time by 23.344 for Phillip, 23.298 for Farinaj. It's not exactly closer, especially by any means, but lap times are showing that Farinaj at least has a little bit of speed left in that car. 23.308 last time for Phillip, 23.351 for Andrew Farinaj.
Yeah, but I don't know if gaining a couple hundreds is going to be enough. He needs to have multiple chances, realistically, to get a pass done. But with about 10 laps to go here, Phillip has had a master class of a race. That battle for third is heating up, though. Look at the pylon.
Ross Cato, Jason Landry side by side now. Cato outside, Landry inside. How about Jason Landry? I don't know of any other driver in their RealSimRacing Cup Series debut that has been able to walk away with a podium finish. This would be huge for that number 56 if he was to walk away with this podium. We know Ross Cato is not going to exactly lay over and let him have it. And somebody else that's not going to lay over is going to be Andrew Farinaj. He's back within 3/10. This time by the stripe. 23.5 for Phillip, 23.4 for Farinaj. He's back within striking distance, but does he have enough time?
Well, it's going to come down first of all how this lap car handles it. Never mind that. Actually, I think Phillip just went up and back off the gas a touch because he was wondering what the 17 was going to do. That's going to help Farinaj a touch bit maybe. But the second point is, you could think devil's advocate. Was he backing off the corners? Try and recharge them. Try and save a bit extra for last race resurgence. It's going to be a tough window here if it stays green to even get there. He's got better rotation entry apex, but it's Phillip who's been better on exit the past few laps.
6 to go. Time running out if Farinaj is going to want to walk away with this win. Down the back straightaway. Gap is 3/10. Farinaj is going to need to do something. He's going to need Agnel Phillip to put a step wrong, which is not common for that number 94. Gap goes within 3/10. Make it 2/10. Down the front straightaway. 23.615 last time by for Phillip. 23.549 for Farinaj. He is there. How desperate is the 88 going to get for this one? He missed out on a race win exactly like this in Bristol earlier this season.
Does he use the bumper? That's a major question mark. We've already seen a couple bump and runs for the Monster Mile. Not common here. Does Farinaj go with the uncommon, or does he keep it clean? It's up to him with 3.5 to go.
Down the back straightaway into turn 3. Farinaj within 2 seconds. Phillip starts using the middle line. Farinaj stays low. Gets a run off turn 4. Inches separating the two. About a half car length as they enter turn 1. Out of 2. This is going to be the judgment. Phillip back down low. Farinaj looks high. The run for the 88. Is it enough? Down into turn 3. Side by side for the race lead. 2 to go at the line. Andrew Farinaj to the inside. Looks for his first win in over a year. Still side by side as they enter turn 1.
Good side draft down the front straightaway. Slow up, big Phillip, take away the outside run. He's going to need to do that again and again. Just couldn't do it this time to keep it side by side quite yet. But Phillip's going to have a hard time defending for this long, this up high on the track.
Another dive to the inside for the 88. White flag is out. They almost make contact as they take the white flag. This race is official. Farinaj on the inside. Phillip on the outside. Much closer than the Bristol race we saw earlier this year. Farinaj is at his door looking for a race win. Phillip looking for race win number 5 on the year. They're still side by side. Exiting turn 4. Who's going to walk away with this race victory? Contact made. Agnell Phillip by half a car length. They wreck in turn 1. And Agnell Phillip, 5-time race winner in 2024. What a finish from Dover.
He tried to slow him up, just couldn't get it done. He needed to hit him a little earlier to slow him up, but Agnell Phillip dominated the race. Farinaj played it clean as long as he could. What a finish.
A matter of inches. They were at each other's door, half a car length separating the two for that race victory. Matt Danson gives some love to Agnell Phillip. We gotta watch, I think, JP, that entire last lap and a half, because it was won from back here for Agnell Phillip. This was all defense. They're coming to the white flag off of turn 4 here. Farinaj tried all he could, but Agnell Phillip was playing perfect Dover defense.
Just got the right amount of momentum for the straightaways. Farinaj was doing a great job on the side draft. If you see him just get a little bit to that right rear, pull him back, stop the momentum. But the problem is, it was just a perfect amount of spread for Phillip on the pinch. But right here, I'm like, just bump him. Farinaj waited a little bit too late. If he slowed the momentum just enough, maybe. But he kept it clean for as long as possible. I think that's why he waited.
We know Farinaj knows how to race clean. He wanted that win, but it was given to Agnell Phillip in a very clean and very entertaining finish to end out this evening. Let's take a look at your full race results after 200 laps here at virtual Dover Motor Speedway. Agnell Phillip walks away with a win by, I think, maybe one of the closest finishes of all time at the virtual Dover Motor Speedway on iRacing. Less than 4/100ths of a second. Andrew Farinaj will have to settle for P2. How about Jason Landry? First race in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, and he walks away with a P3 finish. We'll talk to all of those drivers here in the post-race show. But Ross Cato, Brett Larson round out your top 5. Manazzi Major, Thomas George, Maverick Davis, Sam Nieto, and Michael Loraya round out a top 5. JP, last 3 of that list finishing off of the lead lap.
Great recovery after what happened earlier on, but Brandon Gass finished off at 11th. He tried to use strategy for points. Had it pay off, actually, for a bit. Steve Soa, in turn, finishes behind the 20. Brendan Whitaker finishes 2 laps down. Jared Widemaster didn't have the greatest of luck, 3 laps down. Cody Harris, there was a lot that could have went the other direction. If it wasn't for that screen blackout, we'd be talking about him in the top 3 likely. Austin Coop, 16th. Eric Papineau, first incident involved into the race. He was on the back foot from then on out. Then you have DeAndre Kane in 18th. He had a horrific race. Just could not get the handle on that 90 machine. Bradley Burke, what could have been for him, he finishes 19th. Grant Davis, his teammate, in 20th.
And back through the last couple of finishers. Matt Danson pitted early, stayed out of the race, and then ended up finishing and did get ahead of Dylan Coyle by about 6 laps. Coyle caught up in an incident coming off of the pit lane in one of our green flag stops. And to round out the field, Chris Treppa caught up in an incident very early on and retired about lap 11 in this race. But I say we don't waste any more time, and we get to talking with your race winner tonight. It's Agnell Phillip. And Agnell, very familiar territory for you to be joining us up here in the broadcast booth, but were you expecting that tight of a race finish with your, seems like, main rival on the short tracks, or at least the high-speed short tracks this year, Andrew Farinaj?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened to my right front tire there at the end of that run, but it started to give, and yeah, I mean, Drew ran me down, and props to him for racing me clean there, all the way to the checkered. We were both kind of, I think, giving it all we had. I mean, I'm glad we could get some excitement there on the broadcast, because I'm sure it looked pretty cool to watch us battle there. But yeah, that was fun. Good to be able to put the Republic of Guild Chevrolet back in victory lane.
Qualified on the back foot, and you ended up gaining, I think, about all 6 of those spots up to the race lead on about lap number 2. What was the issue that hindered you in qualifying, and did you figure that out before you got out on the racetrack, or was it simply just 2 laps made and 2 mistakes made from you?
Yeah, I mean, it was just it wasn't a good Q lap, and I think, yeah, I just didn't hit the laps, and that happens. Not really much you can do about it sometimes, and qualifying pace and race pace are 2 very different things. So, I wasn't too worried about it. I was actually kind of looking forward to trying to kind of come up from the makes it work with traffic and kind of see go work on some of those skills a bit. But yeah, that was I wasn't too worried about it. Sometimes you hit the Q lap, sometimes you don't.
Looking forward now, going to the Darlington Raceway up next. For you, seems like one of those tracks that you agree with. 1 race win from the 2022 season in the next gens, and then a 2nd and a 3rd in the last 2 visits there in 2022 and 2023. 5 wins already on the season for you. Can you add P6 in Darlington?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I really love Darlington as a track. It's probably my favorite track on the on iRacing, and I've had a lot of success there in a bunch of different cars. We'll see. I mean, I every time last couple of years when we've gone there, Kevin King's run, and he's had the better of me in every race I've done there since then. So we'll see if he shows up for that race or not, but we'll give it our all here. I feel like I've been driving pretty well, and like I said, it's one of my favorite tracks, so it'll be fun to turn laps there regardless, and keep seeing if we can build on this momentum.
Congratulations on your win tonight, Agnel. Go celebrate with you and the rest of the A51 Pro Altus team. Congratulations again.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Great to hear from Agnel Phillip at JP. And moving on to the 2nd place finisher, but not by a lot. Andrew Freenage in the 88 is standing by with you in a thriller finish.
Yes, Andrew, you were close to breaking what is essentially about a year-long winless streak. Talk us through the final laps as you found the speed to resurge late and just about got there.
Yeah, I pushed it hard right from the get-go on that last restart, and we were close. He started pulling away. I thought that was it. Kind of went back in my groove, started running my laps. Cooled the tires down, and with about 10 to go, I'm like, he's getting closer. 5 to go, I'm like, we might have a shot at this. Really need to get to the top there. Drove it to the bottom. I thought I had a decent shot at it, and close, but we didn't get it done. So a little frustrated with that. I think just needed a little more of it. That was a heck of a race. Must have been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it was definitely fun to see how the finish played out there, but how tricky was it in turn to be able to keep the tires cool? Because one of the trends we've seen seemed to be, until that final run at least, was someone tries to push, then they fall off.
Yeah, just pretty much not doing as much practice as I used to do. Yeah, I don't really know what these cars are going to do. So first run I thought I was saving tires, and I fell off a damn cliff. I was holding people up, so you kind of learn as the race goes on, and was trying to save tires those last 2 runs. But yeah, you definitely had to save quite a bit. Agnel had a funky line that I could not understand, and he was able to go fast and save tires. So I got a lot to learn. It's definitely a complicated process to hold track position, not push too much, push too little, and still have tires at the end there.
I know you have a busy schedule coming up here, so let's talk about what's coming up here. First, you have RTP, but second, the next in RSR is Darlington. What's that balance going to be like with the ESC side, especially since it sounds like in the background, I think your team boss is calling you?
Yeah, forgive me. We just had a big Knicks fan here. We just had a crazy win, so I hope I didn't spoil that for anybody.
Yes, you did for me.
I apologize. Yeah, definitely go watch it though, because the ending was one of the most insane basketball games I ever saw. Yeah, I mean, Road to Pro is pretty much the focus. You know, I really don't have the speed I used to have, so we're kind of out there just trying to have fun in this and Road to Pro. You know, see what we could do over there, but you know, expectations are kind of low, so we go in there. That's the main focus, and kind of show up here. If we practice, we practice. If we don't, we don't. We're still planning on running a part-time schedule here. We just been, you know, up front and really enjoying the guys racing, so we've been doing it most of the year.
Well, on that note, Andrew, any shout-outs you'd like to give before you get back to the team?
Yeah, a big thank you to Paul for spotting, keeping me updated on the score of the game. All you guys for broadcasting, all the drivers. I thoroughly, really enjoy racing these guys. Agnell might win every week, but God, it's such a challenge, and I thrive on just racing some of the best. And he, you know, he's a pro level driver. It's only a matter of time before he gets there. So, and all the fans, I hope you put on a good show tonight. That was a lot of fun to race, and I hope it's fun to watch.
Well, once again, congratulations on the run, Andrew. Let's you get to your celebration once again.
Have a good night, guys.
Andrew Freenosh going to celebrate at least one person getting a victory tonight, Josh. I mean, what are spotters for? Helping spot cars or keeping track of sports scores?
Honestly, I respect that spotter for keeping him updated and getting him up to the front as well. But we are now going to speak to first-time driver in the series, first time joining us in the booth here on RaceSpotTV, all in his first race, Jason Landry. You walk away with a podium finish. First of all, what was it like lining up against an eclectic group of drivers in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series to start your very first race here tonight in virtual Dover Motor Speedway?
I think he's so excited he forgot to unmute his mic.
You got us now, Jason? Well, I wanted to grab the rookie's thoughts.
I think he's stunned with silence.
I mean, it was an impressive run. P3 in first race against this group of drivers is very impressive. Give Jason a couple more moments as well to see if he can figure out exactly why we're not able to hear him here on the broadcast. But like I mentioned, JP, third place finish for him on the podium against Maverick Davis, Ross Cato. He beat Brett Larson, who's been one of the rising stars this season, Minazzi Major race winner from earlier on this season in Las Vegas. Great start for him. I'm honestly excited to see what Landry can do for the rest of the season, assuming he starts running full time with us here on Monday nights. I'm excited to see when he gets that first win. I'm excited to see in general how he performs because, again, touched upon this, how he also was one of your top qualifiers for the opening race in the Toyota GR86 machines for the GR Cup for North America. He's kind of turning into a multifaceted driver that he wants to be making sure he's known for, it almost seems, with him rapidly raising up and raising the profile of the team he's with. We'll give Jason one more shot if we can dial him up. Jason, you got us now? Well, unfortunate. It doesn't sound like we're going to be able to hear from Jason Landry, but if a top three here at Dover tonight is anything, JP, I don't think it'll be the last time that we have an opportunity to speak to Jason Landry here on RaceSpotTV in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series. But that concludes our coverage tonight from the virtual Dover Motor Speedway. And I mentioned it earlier with Agnell Phillip. We go now to the Darlington Raceway up next, and that is a completely different challenge than what these drivers saw here tonight. But as we continue on, it might be round 9, but it's also the last round before the playoff cutoff. So these drivers are going to need to know what they're doing when it comes to Darlington Raceway. They want to make the playoffs. Yeah, I'm curious on how that plays out for the drivers because remember, with this car, it requires a lot of shifting to be able to get the gears right, and better yet, the lines right, and better yet, that's going to be a place extremely hard to pass, to say the least. The Darlington stripe also will be almost like a Darlington hurricane to the front tires.
you better keep it out of the wall, or else we'll see a lot of repairs for cautions.
It is another tire wear heavy track that we are going to see in 2 weeks time. We're off in 1 week's time here on RaceSpotTV and in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. So you can join us once the month of May hits in 2 weeks time from tonight for that race from the virtual Darlington Raceway. But for now, we are saying good night here from iRacing's virtual Dover Motor Speedway. And for Joshua Mendoza filling in tonight for Race Control, and for everybody at RaceSpotTV, and for my colleague in the booth tonight, Justin Prince, my name is Joshua Lee, and what a finish we saw here from the virtual Dover Motor Speedway. We still have an entire season left of Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series action. It might be 5 wins currently on the season for Agnell Phillip, but there is still a ton to play for and a ton of time left in this season. We might be saying good night from virtual Dover, but make sure you're tuning in every Monday night on RaceSpotTV for the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Until next time, we say good night from virtual Dover, where Agnell Phillip has tamed Miles the Monster.